And the CBC's Evan Dyer joins us now from Chelsea, Quebec. So what did officials have to say about next steps?
Well, actually, Arthi, although we've seen restrictions being announced by various different provinces today, we did actually see one restriction lifted today by the federal government, and that is the ban on 10 African countries. This ban did not prevent Canadians from returning from those countries, although it made it very difficult, but it did prevent any foreign national who had passed through those countries in the last 14 days from coming to Canada. Those were 8 countries in Southern Africa, plus Nigeria, plus Egypt. And today we saw that removed. And the rationale is that it was really just a measure to buy time, but it served that purpose and is therefore no longer needed. And I think it's not really a surprise, because we did see Dr. Tam a couple of days ago suggesting that this was probably something that was no longer of much utility. And as we heard there, she said that Omicron is already in a minimum of 77 countries and probably many more. It's also in 11 Canadian provinces and territories. So it's perhaps not that surprising to see that ban bite the dust. There is one new restriction, however. Really, actually, it's an old restriction that returned today, and that is back in October, the government had made an exemption from PCR testing for Canadians who were returning from trips of under 72 hours, cross-border trips into the United States. But that exemption is now going to come to an end as of December 21st. Everybody entering Canada, no matter whether it be air border, land border, no matter the duration of their trip, will need to take a PCR test. And there was some questioning of that today, because, of course, if you've been out of the country for only 3 days or less, then let's say even if you pick up a contagion of COVID-19 on the first day, there's some doubt as to whether by day 3 a PCR test would even detect that, given the incubation period of COVID. And some people are asking, obviously this requirement is somewhat inconvenient, it's expensive. Is this just the government trying to make travel more cumbersome in order to discourage those kinds of trips, or is it really driven by science? Let's look at what Health Minister Duclos had to say about that.
Well, as all measures, this is not a perfect measure, no, but it's an important one. It's an additional layer to protect the health and safety of those that are traveling and those that would be exposed to them once these people come back to the country. So as always, there is no perfect measure, but the combination of different measures brings us closer to perfect system.
There's also some new developments or some updates on that PCR testing at airports, because, of course, the government brought in that requirement to give PCR tests to everybody without actually having the capability to do that. It didn't have enough people to administer all of those tests. And when that announcement began at the end of last month, we had an average of 23,000 international travelers who were supposed to be subject to that new testing requirement, but a capacity of only 11,000 tests. That is now apparently up to 21,000. So closing that gap very rapidly. And of course, in addition to increasing the capability of giving tests, the government is hoping also that the number of people passing through the border will go down. So it looks as though they will soon be able to actually put into practice that new requirement.
And speaking of testing, we certainly know that getting your hands on rapid tests in some provinces has proven to be a challenge. But the federal government was asked about this, and they said that they're working with provinces and territories on rapid testing. So what is the news on that front, Evan?
Right. So this continues to be a patchwork around the country, somewhat like boosters, but perhaps even more so. We see even wider disparities perhaps with these. And the fact that people continue to have difficulties is well established. There's actually a social media campaign called Release the Rats, RATS standing for Rapid Antigen Tests. And you can see from the discussion on that some people in various parts of the country continue to pursue these tests and yet are unable to find them. Some provinces have been doing much better than others. Nova Scotia, for example, New Brunswick and Saskatchewan. In Nova Scotia, you can get a rapid antigen test in a liquor store, in a library in Saskatchewan. You can get them at the co-op gas station. And we have seen some other provinces trying to catch up. Quebec, as of Monday, will allow the delivery of these through most pharmacies. They will be free. It's a self-administered rapid test. Alberta is doing the same as of today. But some provinces continue to lag behind, most notably British Columbia, which has no plan to give self-administered tests at all and won't make even tests that are administered by a health professional available until mid to late January. And Manitoba also bringing up the rear.
And on BC, we'll have to see whether or not they update that today, because they're holding a briefing at 4 p.m. Eastern. But as it stands now, you're correct. Thank you so much for that, Evan.
We'll be watching.
Exactly.
Thanks.
That is Evan Dyer in Chelsea, Quebec.